second, and we'll do a quick test. All right. Go ahead and say something, please, real fast.
Something real fast.
Okay, cool. 1 second. Let me check. Make sure that's recorded. Okay.
Are we recording this?
I would like to make sure it works. Yeah. Let's see.
I never know that if anybody really cares what I say, but I do like to talk. Fast. I do like to talk.
All right. Let's. Are you able to start the event?
Can I start event?
Boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boom.
All right, we're recording.
Great. Thank you, Tommy, for setting this up, and thank you for everybody who's going to join us. This is going to be me doing a lot of talking, a lot of explaining, and stepping you through kind of how we see the world and kind of what motivates us and what decisions sort of drive the things that we do and the way that we do them. And so I'm going to very liberally speak about a lot of things because a lot of things have come up. I think there's a lot of misinterpretation, there's a ton of misunderstandings, and there's a lot of things foundationally that maybe we don't align on that we probably should. But I think it's important for you to hear kind of why we do what we do. I think the thing that I'd like to talk about is we're going to really kind of start with some of our core beliefs and speak in real general terms, and then we're going to get down into kind of the more specifics and kind of the nitty gritty. I will be happy to answer any questions that any people have at the end, but I'm going to go through some thoughts that I've had, and I apologize if this is a little bit rambling, but there's a lot to go over, and so I'm going to try to keep it tight. So, first and foremost, we're building a game with asset ownership at its core. The design goals of this game is for it to be fun to play. If it's not, then really we're not going to get any meaningful number of players to play it, right? So that's really it. That's basically the two driving principles behind what we do, what we're doing, and where we're going. Full stop. Literally everything else is secondary. So design a game that's really fun to play where the things that you own, you get to do with as you see fit. Like, it's that simple. There's nothing else. And again, building an entertaining game is the focus. So let's be clear, and that's always been the case. And the thing I think that you'll find, the thing you'll hear me say is that none of this is changing. Like, we say the same thing over and over again, and I've spent an inordinate amount of time writing articles that nobody reads, and I go on to AMAs that maybe you listen to, maybe you don't, but I try to be really consistent because consistency matters. So there's a lot of things that I say, but one of the main things is the goal is to build an unbelievably fun to play game where you own your stuff. So let's just start with that. And so why is building an unbelievably fun to play game kind of where asset ownership is at its core? Like, why is that, important? Because there is one singular unassailable truth here I think that we need to understand is that if we can get a meaningful number of players in this game and we can stack that audience over time, literally every single concern that every single player on this channel and kind of those in the Discord community have all get addressed. They all go away, every single one of them. Like, some people say, gee, I wish more people were playing. Some people say, I wish more people were buying. Some people say, I wish more people were selling. But in reality, the thing is the same. I wish there was more people. Right. And so the thing that I do, the thing that drives me, the thing that I focus on is what are we doing to get in more people, or what are the decisions that are leading, and does this ultimately lead to more players playing more? And I think it's a really important way to think about it. We say that a lot, is our goal is for more players to be playing more. So that works on a couple different vectors. So you're going to have more players, which you want. And then when you get them in, you want them to play more. So more players playing more. Yeah, so I don't think that you can, if you think about what concern you have or comment you have or question you have about this game, the ultimate kind of, cure-all, if you will, the panacea is, well, if we had more players playing, then a lot of these things go away. Instead, you're kind of stuck with, questions that maybe are influenced or affected by the fact that there's not a ton of people coming in just yet, which is something that obviously that we're going to do and we want to do. So that, this is what's at the forefront of my mind, and I wake up kind of every morning and go to bed every night on focusing on how we can allow players to buy and sell whatever they bought and sold to each other, independent of wallet, platform, or protocol. And those items must exist again within an objectively fun to play gameplay experience, and in one where the better player will win more often than the lesser player. Like that is what my goal is. Now, will the better player always win? No, but will they win more often than not? They will. It's literally that simple. I think the next core value that we have is consistency, transparency, and credibility. We've always strived to be transparent, consistent, and if we're transparent and consistent, we think that that'll lead to us building equity and credibility with our audience, which is what it's all about, credibility and equity, right? Like when I see people come in and they kind of, attack, my character, our character, and they say, oh, the developers are lying, or this is a cash grab, this is a rug pull, or this is a scam. It's like, you guys, have you been paying attention to all the things that we're doing for you? Like none of those things are true. Like I'm here. Players on this channel have emailed me. I've talked on the phone with players. I've been in vid chat with players. Like we're not hiding from anything or anybody. We tackle every issue. We tackle every comment. We tackle every concern. We talk about things. We try to be consistent. We try to be transparent. We try to be candid. But most importantly, we try to be available. And I think that we are. I think that we're more communicative and more available and more open than any group in the space. And that's just something that is so core to who I am, trying to have great communication. That doesn't mean that it's always perfect communication, but we're putting forth an effort and recognizing where we fall short is something that we always endeavor to address. But, look, it's, and look, you can choose to, believe it or not, but we always want to manage expectations. But really, our intention is to live operate this game based on player behaviors. Like that's so important. You want to live operate this game based on what the players are doing. And that really doesn't matter if you're talking about marketplace pricing, inventory levels, brawl buying and selling, crafting, upgrading, competing. All things that we do are done with an eye towards how a singular feature is performing. And when a feature underperforms relative to expectations, we tune it so that we can see what the impact of that change is. No product is perfectly tuned when it first goes live. None. Like, we're not alone that our product features and tweaks don't always work initially, but they all do work eventually. In fact, if you look at every single PvP game developer in the world that has ever existed, or at least one that was any good that has sold you something, at some point they've made changes to that game, right? They've buffed something or they tweaked something or they've nerfed something, what have you. It's like, wait a minute, I just spent N dollars buying this and now it's nerfed, it's underpowered, or wow, I can't believe, they took this and they buffed it, now it's super OP and how dare they change the meta? Like, they do these things not to make you mad or to, really be kind of, malicious. They do it for the greater good. And I think that rising tide perspective can be hard to have as a player when you have your singular mindset or your singular motivation is kind of at the core, kind of why you kind of want to engage with something. But know that the things that we do are no different than any other game developer. What are we doing for the greater good? Like that's always our goal. It's not like how am I helping you? It's how am I helping everybody? And for you to say, well, you're not helping me and F everybody else, like we're never going to do something just for you. Let's be clear. The things that we're going to do, we want to benefit more players than not. And that's really, really important. And we think that's selfless. And we think that's a really admirable thing to do. And it's this kind of, include everybody mindset that, again, is very, very core to kind of what we're all about. And, I say it a lot, and I know that Mason and others like to quote me, like some things you will like and some things you won't. But, on balance, hopefully over time, it all evens out. I cannot help the price of cryptocurrency. I cannot help what you bought something from another player for a certain price. I cannot help what, if somebody outbid you on an auction, you had to outbid somebody else on an auction. Like these are things beyond my control. And so while I am sensitive to certainly the crypto winter that we're all in, making a player profitable is not something that I I can be controlled by, because I think that's unhealthy, because then it's a fairly slippery slope, and I think it's disingenuous for us to try to figure out how to make everybody a ton of money all the time. Like I think games that have done that historically, not everybody always makes money, because if somebody's making money, then somebody else is probably losing money, and that person may be losing a ton of money. I'd give you Axie Infinity as the great example of kind of how that happened. The thing that you won't see us do as a team is you won't see us, taking advantage of a situation. We are, collecting Brawl every single day, and we're sitting on it, and it grows and grows and grows. We're not selling it. We're not rug pulling anybody. We're not doing anything that is deceptive. Like, I think we're a great sort of group to partner with as we build these things collectively. And if kind of monetization and revenue generation is your jam, we'll continue to hopefully do things that allow that to happen. So I think these things can peacefully coexist. But our driving kind of the impetus that lives in our life, the catalyst is we have to build something that people want to come in and play. It's that simple. And if you guys as content producers, can play a role in that, then that's terrific. That's what we want you to do. That's what we've asked you to do, and that's what we've allowed for you to do. And hopefully we allow for that to happen, in the most optimized way possible. And we've also said from the beginning, again, that we want to do things for all players. And you may not understand the reasons why we do something, because your worldview is really limited. Like, we have tons of dashboards and analytics that look at kind of every single player segmentation. I think that's really, really important to point out. It's like, I own a Brawler CM. I don't own a Brawler CM. I own a Legendary Brawler. I don't own a Legendary Brawler. I just bought a starter pack. Like, there's so many different audience segments and personas that we have to be mindful of. And we can't build a game for just one group. We have to try to strike this balance and build something for everybody, which is a really, really tricky needle to thread, but we try to do it. And again, if you understand that that's how we see the world, and if something seems really bad to you, it's probably good for somebody else who's also a player, who's also a payer. And it's not necessarily that we're making out like bandits at everybody else's expense. It's that we're trying to be inclusive. And we try to do things for every single person who wants to engage in the community, in the game, in the lore, in the what have you. And so it's this kind of try to appease everybody that is really hard to do, and it opens us up to a lot of criticism, because again, I know that certainly people feel a sense of entitlement, and I get it. I totally get it. I understand it, and I appreciate it. But I can't have the needle too far one way or the other on the extremes. I have to try to strike a balance, because I think that's fair, and we try to do things that are fair. So, in terms of doing things that are fair or being charitable or giving back, again, I think we've earned a ton of trust, or at least I hope we've earned a ton of trust. The goal is I hope we've earned your trust, and I hope we continue to earn your trust. But if for those people who are kind of new to the experience or don't maybe have the understanding of what we've done, I'd like to just take a quick moment to run through all the things that have taken place. So back in December of last year, a year ago, we gave out 150 pink battle tags, part of the pink battle tag program. Boy, try saying that 3 times real fast. We gave them away for free. We had no program. We just said, here you go. Thanks for signing up to Discord. I don't even remember what it was. It was a program that Marty put together. And we gave out 150 pink battle tags for free. We said, knock yourselves out, and at some point we'll have programming involved, and I hope it's worth it, but I don't know what they are, but it doesn't cost you anything, so why not? So people are like, yeah, I'll take it, no problem. Now, what happened, over the last year, if you look at all the sales between the players of an asset that they got for free, and you do a market breakdown, over $230,000 have been traded between the players of this asset. That's not anything that we sold. That's not $230,000 in our pocket. It's $230,000 in sales volume between the players. We put a program in place that every single month we gave pink battle tag holders. We just gave them stuff just because they were pink battle tag holders. We did that. I think that kicked off in March. And from March through December, we gave out $2,000 worth of Brawl every single month, in addition to certain white lists, in addition to certain swag kits. And again, we gave all these things away for free to let them do what they see fit. So you look at the $20,000 worth of brawl that we gave out. You look at the $230,000 worth of sales volume. You look at all the swag kits that we gave away, or inclusions into whitelists and what have you. You know, it's $250,000 that we just gave to the community. That feels pretty good to me. We also gave out in this last giveaway, we gave out 60 Mike Yellerbellies. We gave out 40 Scotty White Eyes. We gave out 150 Neon Chroma swag kits before anybody else had them. We allowed these pink battle tag holders to go ahead and craft the Neon Chroma Mint ones before anybody else had. Like, there's real, you know, kind of membership has its privileges. And we felt like that was a really good thing to do. And we felt good about it. And we wanted you to feel good as owners, and we wanted to say thank you to you. Again, everything that we've done in December is kind of just trying to say thank you. It's our appreciation for kind of all the things you've done. Yesterday, you know, without a lot of fanfare, we announced massive cuts to the operation fee that the house gets on stake matches. So that, and it came from somebody in the community comment. They said, you know, gee, I reviewed the top 10 of the Power Score leaderboard. It might have been Butte. I don't know who it was. But he said, I reviewed the top 10 of the Power Score leaderboard, and it dawned on me that not a lot of these players in there are actually taking advantage or going to get advantage of this 3% scrape. And that's really too bad. And I agreed. I said that is too bad, because we want the people at the top of the leaderboard not to be the ones who bought the one of ones who really killed it in the mining phase. We want them to be our active players. So I changed it. And I removed a scrape altogether for the number one player. And hopefully he plays. He's a gambler. He hasn't played yet, but I know he's a gambler. I know he likes to gamble. I actually don't even know if it's a he, candidly. They are a gambler. I know that, because they've commented, I would like to play this more. Tell me when it stops crashing. I'm like, yes, I would love for you to play this more. I will tell you when it stops crashing. We then wanted to, you know, if you could get into the top 3, then you're going to get a 1% scrape, which feels like a nice motivation to get into the top 3. And then if you get into the top 10, and we also cut the bottom end of the market because, again, as Butte did point out, that he sort of the win rate for those players in that bucket at 20%, they'd have to win like 62 or 68% of the time, something like that, just to break even, which is a lot to ask. Especially when we get matchmaking banding in there, and it's going to feel like you're going to win 51% of the time, which is where we ultimately want to get you. If you're good, we want you to always be at kind of 51%, and then you're going to lose and fall back until you're in that 49.5% to 50.5% kind of range, and that's where we want to get to. But we're not there yet. We're not even close. But the point was, look, you got to win a lot to break even, so let's reduce it. Now, that 20%, as I've said in the channel many, many times, is that's what Skills is at. And Skills has 3 million daily active users that pay 20% of an operations fee to Skills on every single head-to-head game of Solitaire and Match 3 and Blackjack and, cribbage and all the things that they do on the skill gaming platform. They have 3 million daily active users that pay a 20% scrape on every single game. So there is precedent. Now people say, well, gee, but on PokerStars or Bodog or, the kind of the scrape is way less. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fair too. That's fine. Sure. So we don't know what the right answer is, but what you have to do when you're a product operator is you have to take a position and you have to say, this is what I think feels fair. And then you operate off of what the data is. Because again, you're never going to be right the first time. And we take that very seriously. Like, we know we're not going to be right, but we're going to try, and then we're going to pivot quickly. We're not afraid to say we're wrong. We're not afraid to say this isn't working, or we're also not afraid to say this is maybe a little bit too punitive or too punishing for the player. We're always paying attention to the numbers and behavior of everybody, just not an individual player per se. So we came out and we said, okay, we're going to appreciably reduce the house operation fee for these stake matches. And again, we think that benefits everybody that's playing the game right now, because I reviewed the top 250 people on the leaderboard, on the Power Score leaderboard, and all of them are the ones that are playing. Like, they're definitely playing. There's not somebody who is super engaged as a PvP player sitting outside the top 250. So I said, I want to make the top 250 fair and attainable, and I want to make it rewarding. And so that was the incentive. Again, how can I make this rewarding? How can I provide an incentive? And this is before staking is even live in the game. So we weren't even waiting to see how it did. We just wanted to give it to the players because I thought it made sense. I thought the comments that came back from the community, I thought they were really, really smart. And I saw a certain player that I knew would be motivated to take part in the event sitting outside of the top three. I knew that they would take part in the event. Again, the thing that you can't miss is that the cut in the power score leaderboard scrape goes hand in hand with the Inferno event. Like, we want players to up their power scores. We know that leaderboard is asynchronous, but we know they care about it. And we know the incentive to care about it is there. And so we thought this event, to burn the asset, to upgrade it, to push up your power score, to get a better, to get lesser of a operation fee. Like, we thought those things worked hand in glove. We thought they worked beautifully. There is a method to the madness. Everything we do, there is no chance occurrence. Like, there is a thought or a theory behind all of these things. And so when we cut the power score leaderboard percentages, like, yeah, it felt right. No. It was tied to the event where you have the ability to do that. And take advantage of it now, because for the next 2 weeks and 2 weeks only, like the last burn event we did was 6 months ago. We may not do another one. But here's your window, and it's during the holidays, and good luck, and we want to get back. We hope this feels like a win. We saw a certain player outside the top 100. We knew they were a big PvP player. We wanted to give them a chance to get inside the top 100, where the scrape was even better for them. So we look at these things all the time and understand the cause and effect. And like I said, there are no kind of random acts of development or feature deploys. We gave away the golden battle tags. We just gave them away, and we made them tradable. Here is a chance to spend $1,500, and people go, "Oh, it's so nice. You're giving somebody a chance to spend $1,500." Right, but what happened? The players who got these couldn't afford to spend the $1,500 or didn't want to buy it, so they traded them amongst themselves. And before the Ric Flair sale to the GBT went live, players exchanged more than $200,000 of trading volume in an asset that we gave them for free. And then when they were able to buy the Ric Flair, there was, tens of thousands of dollars worth of Ric Flair's trading hands. Again, because the relative to the one-of-one prices that, the legendaries were pulling in on the auction, these players took advantage of. Again, we thought this was a very player-friendly focused thing. We held a summer block party in August where we did not have the legendaries to give away, so we bought them from the marketplace. An average... what is it, Joe's day job? He can vouch for that. Like, we bought 4 of them from him. That was not a marketing push. The summer block party in August was a thank you. This was us giving away $30,000 worth of goods to you, the player. This was not UA. Like, what were we going to acquire players to come in to do? Come in and chat? Like, no. We're keeping our powder dry on the UA front. So again, we are giving away to the players during August as a thank you. And that's what we said it was at the time. I don't think anybody's accusing us of being anything other than that, although I did see a comment today like, hey, August was the biggest marketing push I've ever seen. Like, you've not seen that wasn't a marketing push from us. That was just us saying thanks. And again, a lot of those things in there we bought from the community. And look, we bought, countless cards. We bought, thousands of cards from the players because all the starter packs that you're seeing that are kind of being sold, all that stuff comes from the community. And, pretty soon we're going to sell what we call starter bundles. I think it's going live, I want to say next week, although I may be live now. I'm not quite sure. The holidays have got our schedules a little bit screwy, but the intent of selling these starter bundles, first of all, it's in the game. You can have, if you in fact get it, it will be minted, the assets will be minted directly to your wallet. So there'll be no going to Nefty to open up the pack, because we know one of the points of friction is I bought this and it's a pack, and so I click open pack and it doesn't open. Like, why is this? Like, we see that all the time. We know that's friction. We know that for new users or even seasoned users, it's confusing. When you see the 17 steps I think you have to go through, it's something ridiculous. I'm making it up, obviously. But when you see all the steps you have to go through just to open a pack, like, I bought this, I paid my 148 wax where it was. Why won't the game let me open it? Yeah, that's a terrible user experience, and we know this. So we've deployed a feature this week that allows us to sell things for wax P directly in the game. And when you buy them, we're going to mint them directly to your wallet. And you'll notice now, if you go to the exchange tab, you'll see how much WaxP you have in your in-game account. So you can import WaxP and buy things from us in the Brawl store. Again, we think this is a very nice quality of life change because, again, you buy something mints directly to your wallet, saves you steps, saves you a click. And at very, very kind of soon in the new year, I believe, if you go to buy a starter bundle and we see that you don't have any assets, I believe the PvP game developer is going to have them just auto-populate your loadout. So you don't have to figure out how to staff everything up in all the slots, 1 through 8, the attack, the taunt, the finisher, the brawler, what have you. Like, you'll show up and play, which is what we want. I bought my pack. It mints on demand to your wallet. You launch the PvP game. Your loadout is already set up. No friction, no friction. You're just playing. Now, how do you play? How do you win? That's another story. But again, the things that and why are we doing that again? Because that helps with user acquisition. That helps with retention. That helps with onboarding. There's all these things that we're doing to try to smooth that out, because that is our stated goal, to get more players playing more. Look, we've also held, countless AMAs and town halls. We've been very present. We've been very available. We've not ducked any questions or comments. And by we, I mean largely me, because I'm the cult of personality, and a role I gladly take on. And like I said, we realize that communication hasn't been perfect, but we have endeavored for it to be perfect. But we're also not hubris enough to believe that it has been. But the fact that we're humble enough to say we can get better and we will get better and we are trying to get better. Is something I think that, you want to hear if you're involved in this game. And to be clear, I don't consider this a project. When people say, tell me about your project, I say, well, my project is a game. Like, I don't ever refer to this as a quote unquote project. That feels unemotional. That feels uninteresting to me. That feels like it's a commodity. To me, this game is not a commodity. This game to me is deeply personal. Like, I love this game. I love to play it. I love to craft in it. If you look at my performance, like, I'm a spender. I'm a buyer. I'm a crafter. I'm an owner. I'm an upgrader. I am not a seller. I'm not a shiller. I'm a player. And this game means so much to me. And so when people attack this game, do I take it personally? A little bit, sure. Should I? No, but I do. I can't help it. I love what I do. And I love the people I get to do it with. They are great people inside of our company and our community that are involved in making this a better experience. So there's a couple of issues or subjects that are, potentially, touchy for folks this week that I want to speak about. I think the first one, I think it's less of a concern. It's around kind of the platinum and diamond Brawlicium changes that we made this week. There's a little bit of kerfuffle in those channels. If you're a Brawlicium owner, then we can certainly talk about this, but. Like I said, when we live operate things, we want to make sure that they're performing well and that people are taking advantage of them. So earlier this week, we made some tweaks to the Brawlicium crafting output and growth curves. And as I said before, when we make changes, it's because the feature is not getting used at all. There's no point in having a feature that isn't, functioning in the purpose that it was designed to serve. Kind of a great case in point of late that's worked really well is the pack influence cost. It used to cost 1 gold if you wanted to kind of influence a pack getting crafted for you on the Brawlicium. And 1 gold was a little bit too much. And so we changed it to Brawl. We lowered the price a little bit because you can't lower it to a fraction of gold. It was 1 gold or 0, right? That was kind of the choice. And so we shifted it to Brawl, which was much more liquid, and we lowered the price a little tiny bit. But we did so with the floor pricing in mind of what things are selling for in the store to make sure that we weren't significantly undercutting pack sales. Again, we look at everything when we figure out and determine what the cost of something should be. And what happened after we changed the price of the pack influence? A lot of players started to use it, a lot, which was really, really good. Yeah, they're crafting the assets they want. They're able to use them more readily, or they're selling them for the prices they want. And it didn't, like I said, it didn't undermine the pricing in the marketplaces. The market price floors, largely held. What my hope is ultimately is that, the price of the finishing moves comes down a little tiny bit. If that happens, it's because a lot of people are using that pack influence cost to craft finishers and to sell them in the marketplace. And the more finishers that get crafted, that means the less of everything else that gets crafted. So the less deck cards, the less moves, the things that are really crafted in bulk. Well, that'll take a lot longer to play out because there's a lot of inventory in the market that has to get sorted. And we have to make sure that the finishing moves are super appealing. But that's why we did that. And it works now. And all of a sudden, people on a daily basis are using pack influence, the toggle to make sure they're crafting the finisher or the taunt move that they want in terms of the pack type, not the specific move. So that worked really, really well. Now, if we look at the change we made earlier this week, for I think 125 levels from level 225 to level 350, we increased the XP chance, not XP, but the range of XP. So as an example, at level 225, if you choose the medium risk path, and I apologize if you're not a Bcb owner and this bores you to tears, but I think it's important to say, the range of XP was 1 to 10. And we made the range of XP on the medium risk path 1 to 30. So we tripled it. It's like, wow, how dare you? Well, yeah, but it's still a range and there's still no guarantee and it still costs a lot of brawl and you still have to opt into it. And it still only lasts for, 125 levels. At level 350, it goes right back to its high risk, high cost, high everything kind of challenge. Now, why do we do that? Because when we look at the 50 Brawliseum, Platinum Brawliseum owners that exist, I think it's 50, it's 48 or 52, it's something like that. Exactly 2 of them have ever used the medium risk path, 2. And they don't use it every day. They use it only occasionally. In other words, here's a feature and nobody was using it. So we said, you know what? You want to change the behavior, you change the incentive. So we tripled the XP potential. But you still had to opt into it. There was still a chance of failure. And as far as I can tell, I haven't looked at the figures the last day or two, but the day after we made the change, still 0 platinum owners were using it. And some of the diamond owners were like, how dare you? And they're going to catch up to us. They're going to do this and do that. And we paid for this and we paid for that. It's like nobody is still using it. So don't worry. Your fears have not been realized. And by the way, they're only crafting 10 times a day and the diamond owners are crafting 25 a day. But again, you want players to be engaged, you want them to progress, and you design a feature, you want them to use it. It's still opt-in. We're not going to make it even better for them. I already think it's pretty good. And we're not going to tweak it any further. But for a limited time, 100 levels, 125 levels, they got a chance to get more XP if they opted into it. It was not required. Now, out of the other side of our mouths, we will say, well, we lowered the cost, the high-risk path once you get to level 500. And level 500 is where the legendaries meaningfully start to drop, which is what everybody wants. And I don't think anybody's at level 500 yet. I think one person's close. Even I'm only at like level 476. But at level 500, when the high risk option comes into play, now it's 100 brawl. It's not like it was like 250. So we dropped that price significantly by 60%. And again, we did that because we thought it was needed, we thought it was necessary, and we thought it would then spur people on to use the high risk path and the things that they crafted. The things that successfully crafted for them, given that it's got a 90% fail rate, then they could choose to use, open, or sell on the market for a much more fair price to everybody else. So we wanted to make it financially viable for both parties, whether you're the buyer or the seller. And so we made that change. And that's kind of what happened this week as it relates to the Brawliseum. So let's talk about the Inferno event. Before we get in ultimately happen, I want to talk about what goals for the event were, because I think it's lost on a lot of people. Like you maybe think that we just sort of said, hey, let's burn some stuff and let's make sure that we don't put any thought into it and let's just do this very haphazardly. So the purpose of the Inferno event, as we wrote this really nice article about kind of what the event wanted to do and why it wanted to do it. We wanted to burn a lot of gold. Prices were dropping. And we want to see prices go the other way. We want to see inventory levels come down. We want to stabilize that to the extent that we could. Not that we have any control over, but we thought, let's give more utility, because more utility is always a good thing. And if the utility is tied to something that is appealing, then it will work. We wanted players to have the ability to utilize a lot of brawl. Again, we want to continue to increase the appeal of holding or buying Brawl, which is a very positive thing for the overall kind of Brawl supply. Not that we're the Federal Reserve, but you kind of have to think about it in that regard. It was really important for us to continue to reduce the number of Series 1 NFTs that were in existence. Like, you guys were the first here. We want to help you make your assets scarce. So when we get players in, there's very few of what you guys own. And that's always a helpful thing. So a really, really important goal was to reduce the number of Series 1 NFTs. I mean, right now, I think there were, well, heading into the event, there were 17,919 across the 6 different brawlers that were out there. You know, kind of, you know, Rusty being the rarest, followed by Johnny. And then it went, you know, Mike, Scotty, Barry, Colt. But we wanted to reduce the overall number of brawlers from kind of 18,000. We wanted to get it to south of 15,000. Like, we wanted to see an appreciable drop, you know, closing in on 20%. That was the design goal. I don't think we'll get there now given the price structure. But the event was designed to remove 20% of the existing brawlers in the world. And we thought that was a really, really good thing for the people who own Series 1 NFT brawlers. And again, like I said, we also want to allow players to move up the NFT Power Score leaderboard. You know, we thought that was a really, really important incentive. And that's why, again, we launched those things, or we had those things lined up back to back. The other problem that we see in the market is that there is no foil cards being bought or sold. I mean, 1 or 2 sell here or there. And I know one guy said, oh, you know, I bought a bunch. Well, you know, I think you bought 2 or 3 and, you know, okay, but people aren't, right? And so people say, well, they need to be scarce, they need to be rare, so therefore they'll go up in value. Right, but if nobody's buying them, you know, the value of something is only what somebody's willing to pay. And nobody's paying anything consistently, so there's no market for them. And so because you see no market for them and people aren't selling them, then that means that nobody's using them to craft or upgrade, which is something we wanted. We want people to craft, you know, a legendary deck card. We want people to craft an epic foil card. We want people to craft you know, a legendary foil deck card. Like the mint hunters, we want to reward that engagement. And at this rate, these things will never exist. And so we wanted to have something in place where we increase the amount of inventory in the world so it would take advantage of a positive behavior, which is allowing players to chase the #1 mint legendary foil through upgrading, and allowed players to, if you missed on a Colt, and by the way, the Colt recipe was always intended to be over $100. And so I think a lot of people react like, oh my God, $24 for a Colt and you get 10 epic foils or 10 foils. Like, what a ripoff. There'll be tens of thousands of them. No, there won't, because it's not $24. But we always said the recipes aren't out yet, but they will be, and they're going to be expensive. But yet a lot of times I think people jump to conclusions, or they don't read what we write, or they don't think about it. But we really wanted to fuel the low mint bloodlust, which we know exists, because we have it too, right? Like, we absolutely have it. Like, we love chasing low mints. Like, it's really fun. We are also collectors. So we get it. And I think the benefit for you guys is that, you know, we are players of what we collect, trade, build, sell, what have you. So we're not sitting there like in some kind of, you know, silo going, gosh, I have no idea if this works or not. I have no idea. Like, we're there too. And we're not always perfect, but we're there. And we want to fuel the behaviors that we know that you exhibit, because we exhibit them. We're very like-minded in that regard. But mostly, and above all else, we wanted an event that felt like we were allowing 2 different segments of our playing population to feel like they were winning left and right. We wanted this to feel like, I said in channel many times, this felt like a Black Friday or a Cyber Monday where, like, I can't believe they're giving all this stuff away. I can't believe everywhere I go, I'm winning. Like, this is so unbelievably great. And by the way, the drop rates for the really, really weird things were low. Like 1 in 20,000, 1 in 50,000, 1 in 100,000 lottery style thing. So it wasn't like we were giving away the farm necessarily, but we wanted it to feel like this, a little bit of a kind of a, you know, real risk reward, and where you would never really ultimately miss. Like, oh, if I missed, I still got something that had value. And then what you got that had value because it had an appeal, and it had an appeal because it's something people wanted to do. So all these dots were connected. This was not a rushed event. We spent a lot of time looking at recipe costs. We spent a lot of time looking at reward rates, and we spent a lot of time looking at reward types. And we went back and forth for the last kind of 3 weeks on the planning of what this wanted to do. And we always started with, what are the goals for the community? And what are the goals for the economy? And then what are the goals for engagement and retention? And we backed out that programming. So this is not something that we took lightly, or this is not something that I woke up one day and said, hey, it'd be cool is if we could screw over Brawl CM owners by giving away foil cards for free. Never the intent. And that wasn't the goal, but I think that's how some people took it. And I don't think that that was necessarily fair or necessarily like contemplative of all the variables. Now, should we have published the recipe costs on day one when we put out the announcement? Yeah, maybe. But, there's a downside to that too. Plus, we weren't 100% locked in on those things. And so I will say that we will do that better next time, and that we will be more inclusive. Like, I have a group of ambassadors that I tend to lean on. I didn't for this event, which is shame on me. But a lot of times I will run ideas past people, either individually or collectively, about what they think about something. And I will tell you guys this, for every person that has kind of, vocally complained that, how dare they? I've had, probably 2 times as many people come up and say, I'm really disappointed that you changed your mind. Like, I was really going to take part in the first event, the way it was designed. I was really excited about it, and it felt like, it was really helpful, and it was all these things. And the fact that you bowed to the will of some folks was disappointing. So I know that, and this is not to get self-righteous, this is not to be an I told you so, but I'm saying I know that we have our perspectives. I really do. And I know that we think that this is most important to us, and you have to stay true to your word and don't lie to me and all that. All these accusations that have been hurled at me, which I don't necessarily think are fair, but whatever. I'm a grown up. I can take it. You can tell me whatever you want. I don't take it personal, but whatever. But there's a lot of people who really loved how it was initially laid out, because they felt, finally they get a chance to get some upside for their risk. And, but yeah, look, we put it out there. Here's the important thing that you should focus on. We put the event out there. We got the reaction. The reaction was, negative from a certain segment of the audience, and we didn't want to upset, those people. So we changed. That's it. There's no need to have any more conversation about how dare you this or how dare you that. Like, we put it out there. It wasn't well reviewed by a certain segment of the audience, so we changed it. End of discussion. Again, as we said, our heart was in the right place. We wanted to do something where everybody felt like they won. We really did. Contrary to popular belief, the GBT was not an FU to anybody. We thought about it being a pink battle tag, but because the pink battle tags just came off of a hot program, we didn't want to send the wrong message there. We've used pink battle tags before, or I'm sorry, golden battle tags before in the last burn event. Like, I think the last one was if you burned a cult. If you burn, I can't remember what it was. Oh, I think if you burn the Scotty, there was a 1% chance you got a golden battle tag and a 1% chance you got a rusty, something like that. But we've used golden battle tags before, so that's not anything new. That's not, and again, that's not us trying to say F you to anybody. That's not us trolling anyone, even though it may look that way. What we said is, okay, we need an asset that can't be crafted or dropped by the Brawl CM owner. We need something that accomplishes the goal of removing a Series 1 NFT out of the inventory level. And we need something that represents risk reward, because we know at the top end of the market, players, they want to take that risk, and they know that the risk is I may miss. And initially we said, well, let's put one singular common card in there as the miss. Like 92% of the time you get a common deck card. And then somebody said, nope, you can't do that, because again, that can be crafted by the Brawl CM owner, and they'll get mad at that too. So I'm like, okay, well, what can we put as a reward that clearly represents no value? And they said, well, let's go back to the golden battle tag because we've used it before. Let's use it again. Okay, that's what we'll do. That's what we did. There's no emotion there. There's no like, how can I stick it to them? Like that never even came into consideration. So let's talk about how the event has performed so far, because it's been 24 hours. In the last 24 hours, so far, over 2.5 million Brawl has been spent. Now, I will tell you, on a typical day of crafting, upgrading, Brawl CM ownership, wallet scrapes because people took money out of the game and put it into their wallet. We do on average about 170,000 brawl syncing, if you will, or brawl shifting, if not syncing, brawl shifting from utility. We do about 170,000 brawl on average a day. When there are swag kits that get sold or swag kits that get kind of put onto players, that number can be between kind of 220 and call it 300. But in the last 24 hours, we players, I should say, have spent 2.5 million brawl, which we think is pretty good. Over 3,000 bars of gold have been burnt, which is about 2% of the circulating supply, and we're only one day in. The Mike Yellowbelly floor pricing is up 121%. The Scotty Wide-Eye floor pricing is up 42%. And gold pricing is up 50%. Gold floor pricing. At one point last night, I looked on Atomic Hub and there was like 28 bars of gold to be sold. That was it. And then I think somebody caught wind, and all of a sudden all the farmers came in and loaded up all the gold again. But gold sold yesterday. Like last 2 days, I think over 700 bars of gold has sold. So a really good day for liquidity. Now, of course, I'm sitting there thinking as a product operator, imagine how this event would have performed that first day had we kept that same reward structure in place where it was really, really appealing. It would probably have been way more brawl, way more gold, and that would have lasted probably the course of the 2 weeks it was intended to run, or the 10 days, whatever it is. But hindsight's always 2020. The point is that this event is performing well so far. And, there's not a lot going on game development wise over the course of the next week or so. And so we want to give you guys something to do and something to talk about. I will tell you right now in 1.5 of the PvP game, staking in room 5 is now open, which is 100 brawl stake per match, not 10. And we're very intentionally slowly opening up these rooms as we get more and more stable, as we get more and more comfortable. The challenge for us is that, not a lot of developers can be online the next kind of 10 days. And so if people are, upset because, this game crashed and it took 100 brawl from me and where's my refund? Like, we can't handle a ton of inflow in terms of customer support and looking at stuff. And so we're very pragmatically doing that, but we want to show you progress, right? We want to show you that things are progressing and that things are getting to a point where we feel really, really comfortable about what's going on and how we are working towards the ultimate conclusion of this game, which is let's get the game stable, let's get staking working, and then let's turn on the let's turn on the faucet in terms of user acquisition. Something else that we decided this week, which we haven't shared with anybody yet, and I'm going to write a post on it next week, but because you're listening you get it here, is that we've sort of said always that there's going to be a global esports tournament series that exists, and at the end of the year we're going to do this and that. But one thing that I got approval for this week is that I'm going to take 10% of every single brawl collected from the entry fee, and I'm going to put it into a pool, and I'm going to pay it to the people who qualify for the final event December of next year. So for the next 10 tournaments, so as an example, this tournament we collected 127,500 brawl. And so we're going to take 12,750 brawl and put it in the pool. And then next month, we're going to take 10% of that, and then 10% in Feb, and 10% in March, and on and on and on. And at the end, hopefully, there's kind of 300 to 500 brawl, 1,000 brawl up for grabs. Now, I haven't decided if it's a winner take all. That would be cool. Or if it's going to be pay out the top 3 or pay out the top 10. But to qualify for the final event, which is going to be invite only, it's going to be based on point standings. So the top 10 places will get different points. And then if you're in the top 16, so 11 through 16, you'll get a certain set of points. If you're 17 through 32, you'll get a singular set of points. You'll be in a bucket. And then if you're beyond 32, I don't know what you get. But the whole thing is we want to have like a point standing, and that points standings will be manifested on the website so you can see where you are on the points leaderboard. Hopefully we will also be able to display what the brawl kind of accumulation pot is. So again, this whole thing really wins when we start to get a lot of people competing, and that's where that's going. I think Mace Massacre asked for call out or clarification of how much brawl they've won in staked matches. That's something we're going to do as well, although I'm not officially committing it to it in writing, but I'm telling you that's going to happen and that's on the roadmap. And so I don't know when that will be, but that is going to happen. So the larger point is you guys talk and you say things, and we're not just like, F you, it's our game, leave us alone. Like the ideas that are good, we listen to, right? And we take it into consideration. Now, it doesn't always share the same priority, but we are listening and we are paying attention, and we're not dumb. Like if you have a good idea, like I don't care where the idea comes from. And not all the ideas are great, but some of them are, and we take notice. We also don't think that we have all the answers, and so we're going to try, or we're going to lean on you guys for those questions and comments. So look, this has been kind of 45 minutes of me talking at you guys, and I wanted to kind of step you through everything that we've done. But again, at the end of the day, I think the thing that I would ask is that I always would like to have the benefit of the doubt, and know that if we do anything, we are doing things because we have a greater worldview, and we're trying to be inclusive, and we're not trying to be dismissive, and we're not trying to be deceitful, and we're not trying to lie, and we're not trying to scam or rug pull anybody. I think that we've earned a ton of kind of equity so far, and we don't dodge or duck issues. Like, I was off Discord yesterday because I wanted to let everybody kind of vent if they wanted to vent. I wanted everybody to express their opinions. Fine. I've learned that when I argue with my wife and she's really angry, I never win that argument ever. Not that you ever win an argument against your wife. You don't. The best you can hope for is a tie. But I know that it doesn't do me any good to sit there and try to go toe to toe with her. There's just no winning when emotions involved. So I also say that as a leader, I like to respond and I don't like to react. I think you have to be careful because you can react a lot of times and say things that are maybe not thought through. So I always want to have perspective. And that's what you get with me. I don't duck or hide, and I try to be responsive, but I may not always react or respond on your timeline, but I do it when I feel comfortable, when I feel like I've contemplated kind of all things. And again, I continue to think this is the best game in the world. I continue to think this is the best community. And, I also continue to think that, I'm not perfect and this game's not perfect, but it's not going to stop us from trying. So, the next month on the roadmap, so we're going to publish a calendar, I think on January 3rd, and a lot of the things in there are going to be less content heavy, more structure. How are we going to set up, centralized accounts so when players come in to try the game, they don't necessarily have to have a Wax Squad wallet. We will figure out how to get them one. But all these things we're doing are going to be focused on onboarding players. And when we're ready to hit the go button, the game's clean, flows are tight, everything's automated. Just, still have some work to do on the tutorial, but I really like where we're at and where we're headed. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right,
if there are any, there may not. I may have talked to people into submission, Tommy.
Here we go, Buddha. Welcome on up. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll bring you up. I think the mods can help with that too, if necessary. Buddha, floor is yours.
Tommy, I don't hear anything.
Me either. Buddha, you check your mic. Make sure you're plugged in. Muted, unmuted. Maybe check your settings, make sure you have the right input.
Buddha gets, we can get somebody else.
Oh, Buddha's working on that. Is there anybody else who wants to come on up, or raise your hand and we'll bring you up to ask a question for Mike.
By the way, something I forgot to mention, something I think is really vital, is that yesterday, when we first went live at the event, it just blew my mind. The Colt recipe cost 2,400 brawl. It was supposed to be 24,000. And 24 Colt crafting recipes took place at the 2,400 brawl level. And since then, 17, I think, have taken, or 13 have taken place at the full price. But this is a 512,000 brawl win in the player's favor. And so, again, we're not perfect. But again, that felt really generous, but that was never our intent for it to be that generous. So if you got in early, and I think Buddha probably was one of them, good for you. And so, yeah, that's something that if you notice you thought you were getting over on us, you did, but it was not our intent. So congrats. And we need to be better about our go live processes next time, and we will be. The person that did it felt pretty bad, and we don't shame or disparage anybody. It's human nature. We all make mistakes, but that was a 500K brawl, mistake in your favor. It's almost like in Monopoly, bank here in your favor, $200. Although maybe people don't know that game because I'm old and.
No, Monopoly's still going strong. Here's a question from the chat, Mike. Mace Masker asked, can't speak right now, but is the staking percentage tied to power score yet?
Yes, 100%.
All right.
And the way that it works is that if you win, you'll see the gain. In the results screen, it should say N brawl minus house op fee or something like that. But yes, it was hard because when it was 10 brawl and it was a scrape of 1, right? It's like, well, does this work or not? Like 1 brawl scrape or fee is no big deal, but yeah, it's working now. It should be. We changed it and updated it yesterday, and that API is shared with the PvP developer. So if you find that that's not the case, let us know. We'll fix it and we'll refund you accordingly. But it should work now. Yes.
Cool. There's a few other folks typing in the chat. Buddha, how you doing?
And he's gone.
Okay, he's probably restarting. He'll probably be right back. All right, so Metaverse Arcade asked, can I ask if there's any potential cause for concern with the game given the market conditions and recent Wax layoffs?
No, none whatsoever. The thing that I say that's a little bit counterintuitive is that we've never concerned ourselves with the price of Ethereum or Bitcoin. And we say that because Wax is tied to those things, right? Wax feels like it trades very evenly with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up 5%, Wax is up 5%, Bitcoin's down 10%, Wax is down 10%, and on and on and on. The thing that we are mindful of is, again, building a game that's great to play, that you are able to bring in a large kind of number of people. The Wax price has hurt our ability to fully staff the organization, but the game team is, the devs are all intact and it's kind of all full steam ahead. And so not that we're 100% isolated from it, but, I think that we are largely isolated from it. And, again, we'll continue to try to bring in people that aren't quite so concerned about, the crypto prices either, core gamers that, fans of Richard Garfield, and people who like to play poker, and people who like potentially TCGs or WWE fans. Like, they're not necessarily crypto players, they're just people. And they still game all the time, and they still spend all the time, and they still engage all the time. And so there's a huge cohort of individuals that can't be bothered by what is the price of the cryptocurrency markets looking like.
Cool. Thank you for that one. All right. So Buddha, you want to give it another rock? Can you try it again? Buddha, I'm sorry, it might not be working out. If you want to type your question in the chat, I'll read it up to Mike.
I'm assuming that Jimmy Z's mic works really well.
I was about to say, Jimmy Z, you want to give it a shot? Welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Buddha then. Hey, question then. I haven't been able to play one of the rate games yet. I've jumped in a couple of times trying to, and I saw that message like, agree to accept whatever, the fee was.
Yeah.
So is that the fee that if you win, you'll be docked? Is that like based on your power meter? Is that the fee you're talking about, or is that something different?
Yeah, 100%.
So then I guess since I haven't been able to like get on the phone or play anybody yet, trying it, so people will see different numbers when they go on to that based on where their power meter is. And so if somebody's top 10 and somebody's outside of 500, they're going to see a different number pop up for them that they have to agree to, I guess. Is that correct?
You keep saying power meter because you've got power meter on the brain, Jimmy, which I appreciate. You mean power score.
Power score,
And
yeah, sorry, power score.
yeah, no, and you're absolutely correct. So, you know, you probably have a great power score. So your fee you'll see will be kind of 3-4%. I think I'm like in the top 50, so I'll see, you know, a different number than you will if you're in the top 10. But yeah, every power score is dynamic relative to the person's position on the leaderboard itself.
Okay, got it. All right. Yeah, I've jumped in the room a few times, waited, and then it timed out, and I guess nobody was playing at the time. Or actually, a few times it did seem like it put me into the room to play somebody, but then it never actually started the game.
Let's not
And
rehash that, Jimmy, shall we?
uh,
Yes, we have connection. We've had connection instability issues. I appreciate
all
that.
right, no worries. Well, listen, hey, I just want to also say this before I go. Appreciate you putting the space together and jumping on and talking. I mean, I threw that out there earlier because I just started reading the chat and I was like, you know what, this is chaos. And I think it's always better when people just get on the phone and talk and actually, because with the texting and the chatting, sometimes you can't determine people's tone and sometimes it may come across as negative or this or that when it may not be meant that way or it may be meant that way. But regardless, really appreciate you taking the time here right before the holidays to give us, you know, your feedback and just explain to us what the thought process was.
Yeah, you had an idea. I said it's a good one. Let's make it happen. And now here we are, just a few hours later. See how that works?
So,
Yep.
I see it. All right. Hopefully, Buddha can talk. I'll catch you guys.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Buddha. All right.
Wonderful. It works finally. Thank you guys for letting me get on stage here. Number one, great job so far, and again, look forward to that continued, forward progress you guys are making. Understood when I first joined this game too. Again, you always said you're trying to make a fun game, make it something that people actually want to play, and that's mainly it. It's not about the whole money thing, as you mentioned before, which you also understand. Another thing is that, like you said, you've been doing this for quite a while. Me and some of the other players, we've been here for a few months. So, like you said, you have a bigger understanding of the overall, space, understanding of how things interrelate with each other, and then all the upstream and downstream effects, what happens from that, right? And appreciate you guys also saying, you know what, let's look at that frictionless onboarding, because again, that is one of the key things that we just saw again this afternoon. Making that queue is going to be super helpful, getting these people on board. And then stability of the game is also going to be huge. Once those two things happen, again, this thing can really just take off because this is darn addicting, right? Great part of it. I think the one thing, again, out of all the great stuff happening, the only hiccup there, as you mentioned, there's a certain, group saying, hey, what's going on? But I think it's mainly just because when we were talking about Brawl themes and these BOS were sold, they're like, you know what, you guys have the biggest asset in the game, which we agree. Yes, it is. We're also told the only people that can create these assets would be these BOS owners. So I think that's where, that part, when it got put out that, hey, these rewards would include those cards, that just kind of threw us for a loop, though, or at least threw me for a loop, as an example, and maybe some other folks also. I think that was the one piece that, just was different. We were kind of understanding we want to get a lot of people in, understand we want to make everybody happy and get that group together. But that one principle, BOS are the only ones who craft NFT cards. That's the one principle that just kind of like, kind of stuck out, right?
Yeah,
So
I get that. I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
No, I mean, I just want to make sure it's not thought of as a entitlement issue, though. I mean, I don't want it to seem like I'm entitled. That's not the point. The point is just, again, we were just, informed of some, some information. We made judgments based on that, made decisions on that part, and that's that's the piece of it. In terms of that XP thing, like you said, and that part, I think that's actually great. We do need to get more people, working on these, BOS and leveling them up, that kind of stuff. No issues. But again, it's that one principle saying, though, hey, only these guys can create these assets. That was it. That was the one piece that, just again stuck out. That's all. That makes sense?
Yeah, of course it makes sense, right? No, and I think I've always understood the contention. I think I took a larger kind of thought, and I think I said it to you directly. Like, if all of a sudden this event was so successful and Brawl went to $3 a token, and I'm obviously being evocative. I'm not saying that it is, but if this event like caused the Brawl token to moon, then nobody would care, right? You'd be like, oh wow, never mind. Like, yeah, I get it. You did something that really materially improved every piece of the game, right? Gold is up, Brawl is up, cards are selling like crazy, people are crafting like crazy, people are creating like crazy. And that's what we mean about kind of live operations. And so, I will own the fact that I had a blind spot for just how unbelievably sensitive something like that was, right? And so I will own that. Well, I commit to never, ever selling a card ever again, ever that, didn't come from Brawl CM. I don't know. You can't speak in such finality. I'll also tell we own 800 Brawl CMs ourselves. So we could literally do this all day long and really tank the market, but we won't. That's not a threat. I'm just saying. And I know certain people will say, "Well, I don't want to compete with you," right? You shouldn't want to, right? And we don't want to compete with you either. But I'm saying, it's hard to think about things in such a silo because our perspective was it'll be a rising tide, and it's like, wait a minute, you're now going back on your word, and that's a terrible look. And so, on the one hand, I'm like, fine, we will make the event less appealing to stay true to our word, right? Which is a hard thing to do because I know for a fact that the event would have performed, much, much better and more people would have gotten more joy out of it. Therefore, more people would have taken part in it. And that's the thing that kills me. And so the postmortem that we did internally is, okay, on future events, we have to figure out what the rewards can be that we can give that don't come from Raw CM, which is kind of sad, but it's the reality. And again, we want it. Our integrity matters, and we want to be true to our word.
How about an or though? For example, right now, we have a lot of different Brawl CM owners out there. Is there a way, like you said before, have a collaborative discussion with certain folks? Maybe say, Brawl CM owners, you guys figure out, is there maybe a little forum here? Maybe choose 5 people within this group, 10 people, whatever it may be. Have them give a voice to the group.
We have our ambassadors, which is 17 people across a bunch of different socioeconomic things that I normally go to. For this, I didn't because I just thought, well, this is such a win for everybody. And I've done it in the past, and I've gotten really good feedback. There's a bunch of really good, really thoughtful people in that group. And I just didn't, and they are my sounding board. I didn't do it for this. I mean, I sitting there thinking, ironically, I was sitting thinking of all the people who are going to benefit the most from this is going to be Buddha because he's a low mint hunter. And now all of a sudden, an epic deck foil, which is never going to exist, a legendary deck card, which may never exist as soon as we introduce these beta 2 series cards, which are kind of in discussion, right? And for sure, a legendary foil will never exist. But with this, you have the chance to really go chase those things that are so exclusive and rare and really scratches your collector's itch. I thought you're really going to appreciate this and you're going to love it. It's really going to kind of set up for you. And you're one of the ones who said, no, I don't want that to be that way. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's so counterintuitive to what I thought the reaction would be. Because I thought, here I am building something for Buddha. And Buddha's like, no, I actually want it to be way worse for me just because I do. It just didn't compute for me, and I kind of started mashing my head in the wall going, what am I missing here? This is so good for him, and he doesn't want it.
Yeah, apologies for that misunderstanding. I mean, I guess from my point of view, I think only Brock put this great suggestion up also. This event, brawlers are putting them out there to have this, rarity go up, having a chance, the high risk, high reward, situation to clear is great. Maybe in addition to that also, say, you know what, maybe we have this burning piece also with cards. Say, hey, if you put in let's say 100 deck cards, 100 common cards, you have a chance for a legendary. That kind of same thought process, and do it hand in hand. I think that would be fantastic because then again, it takes both the Brawl CM owners and these brawlers into account. Not but keep them in separate buckets per se, although in the same event.
Yeah, I get it. And we looked at a bunch of different recipes. We looked at multiple brawlers per singular recipe. We couldn't do that. There's a lot of things that we were restricted by because we just didn't have the time to engineer the solution because the crafting, which used to be swagging, which used to be crafting, then now it's upgrading. All these things are inextricably linked. And so we're kind of refactoring kind of core code bases every time. And we're not a massive team. We're not 100 developers. We're a handful of folks trying to get a lot of things done quickly. And so, certainly more interesting recipes that take things out of circulation is something that we want to do and we will do in the future. But again, I think if you look at from the first event to the second to this one, we always try to do a little bit better, right? It's progress. It's progress, not perfection. And so I am all about what can we do to make things better in the future. And look, lowering, like I said in the chat today, increasing the drop rate for the foil cards is also on the table, but you potentially run into the same argument. Wait a minute, this dropped for me 1 in 1,000. It's like, all right, I just paid for this, and I can't believe you're making it more readily available. It's a variation of a theme. Like, you have to be careful when you commit to something, but yet, I don't know. It's tricky because we don't want to be thought of as being disingenuous or liars, but yet we also know that we want to do something that's the best for everybody. And so how you walk that line it's never easy. Otherwise, we just walk it. Instead, we test and we tune, we optimize, we tweak, we change, we nerf, we buff, we do all the things to kind of dial something in. And once it feels right, like, okay, now let's go.
Yep. Well, appreciate the thoughtful approaches, background planning behind it all. Unfortunately, just didn't get interpreted that way. So hopefully again just gets better and better, as we say. And thank you again for letting me speak today.
Yeah, and next time we'll publish the recipe costs so people won't react to thinking that there'll be 85,000 foil cards in circulation all of a sudden, because not at $100+ a pull there won't be, because that's way too risky.
No, I agree, totally agree. But those recipes were great though, and I know that actually did do well with the recipes also the way they were, because I did pay 24,000 Brawl and 20 coins per my pools, and it worked out okay.
You also got a Rusty from a mic, so congratulations to you.
Thank you. Yes, that's true.
All right, thank you.
We don't miss a beat.
All right, we got a couple questions from the chat, Mike. This first one is for Nashville Lou. Good to see you. What is the plan for the rollout of the free-to-try packs?
That's a great question. I'm not sure what he means. What is it like? We don't have a fully detailed go-to-market strategy. The first thing that we are in the process of building right now, as we talked about, there's two core components, right? There's two things to pay attention to. The first is, when do we have, and by the way, also important that a lot of people aren't taking advantage of, is this linking your Discord account. So this week we rolled out the ability to link your Discord account to the game. And what we're going to do in the future is no more random leaderboards where you're changing your name left and right. You know who you're playing, because we're going to take advantage of your Discord ID. So we actually want people to go onto the homepage of the website. You'll see a thing in the bottom right-hand corner that says link your Discord account. Like, as of yesterday at this time, 14 people had done it. Like, I want everybody to do it. So that's one. So it's all about kind of centralization in a decentralized world. So we're going to create a centralized account system. So you're going to come and log in with a username and password, or an email and password, right? Email and password. So that's really for the free-to-play player who doesn't have a Waxcloud wallet. Or if you do, it's just a way of saying, okay, here's your centralized account. So when you go download the downloadable client, or when you go and grab the mobile app, you log in with your username and password, or a single social sign-on or single sign-on. So that's one thing to pay attention to, because that allows us to, say to people, hey, come play this game. If you just come play this game and show up, and we grant you those assets, those free to try assets, like, that's a huge piece of friction removed. It's not like set up your Waxcloud wallet, buy wax, pay your 5 wax, go on and put your credit card on a file with a payment provider you've never heard of. Like, there's all these things that we're doing that are going to remove that from consideration. So this will look and feel much more like a free-to-play game. So the first thing to pay attention to is we're going to talk about centralized account creation. And if you have an account, it doesn't matter. You can link your Waxcloud wallet to it, and it'll be no big deal for the existing player. It really won't be a big deal at all. But for the new player, for the free-to-try NFT part, so that's part one, and that's really, really an important component. The second component is actually already done. Like, we have the ability to, if we grant you this special free-to-try NFT, then we can recognize that, and then we can pre-populate your loadout. Like, that piece is done. Now, it's not live in the game yet, but all the coding is done. And so that was done by our team on the website side. And now the PvP team has to go ahead and integrate, kind of hook up those wires, but they're going to take existing assets, again, that are not NFTs, and they're going to make them perform like the pay-to-play players do, but they're going to work for a couple of weeks, but they can't be taken out of the game. They can't be sold. They can't be bought. They can't be traded. They can't, like, you'll have this for a limited amount of time. I think it's 30 days, but I'm also contemplating 10 days, 2 weeks. We'll see what works. We'll see what gets people to convert in. But those are the two things to pay attention to: is when is the centralized account creation live, and when are you going to see us announce the free-to-try NFT now works from end to end? And once those two things are in place, which I think are going to be, without putting myself on the spot, somewhere between kind of Jan 15 and call it Jan 25. then we'll feel really good that everything is in place. And hopefully by that time we have this full kind of promotional campaign and strategy. So we're going to take advantage of all the digital market spaces or digital real estate that we control, whether it's Viral Market, whether it's Wax Wallet, whether it's Wax.io. We have a whole army of 60 kind of Wax ambassadors, not necessarily blockchain brawlers ambassadors, but Wax ambassadors. So we're going to do really a lot to distribute this as widely as we can. First to the Wax audience, then to the larger crypto audience, then to even a larger gamer audience. And so it's going to be a staged rollout. So it's not like, oh, so on January 15th, we're going to have, 100,000 players. No, nobody said that. What we said is we're going to be ready for that program to go live. We're going to roll it out. And we also don't want to kind of, we want to keep our powder dry. Like we want to roll it out. We want to see how it does in a certain segment. And we're going to just continue to operate and iterate and operate and iterate. And every single day, we want to get a little bit better. When all of a sudden you look up, 15, 20, 30, 60, 90 days later, you add, 50 to 100 players a day, and all of a sudden that becomes 500 players a day. And you look up, you're at, 10, 15, 20,000 players. It's very, very different than the world we live in right now. And so it's always about progress and not perfection. And I will tell you the thing that we have seen is that with the install cohorts that we're getting today, which are organic, we have over 40% user retention, meaning if you played on day one, did you play on day two? And 40% of the time, the players come back and play from day one to day two, which is a really positive thing. A really, really good free-to-play game is 35 to 40%. We're kind of at 42%. And there's no incentive, right? Like staking really isn't a thing. And, they weren't really taking part in the esports, and we didn't have centralized account creation, and we didn't have a good tutorial, and we didn't have a super stable game. So there was really not a ton of incentive to come in, but they did. And they're starting to stick around slowly but surely. And now they're not coming in huge numbers. It's drips and drabs. But it's a good sign that an unoptimized or non-existent ad campaign coming into an unoptimized incentive flow, and they're sticking around to play. The other thing worth pointing out is, players are playing an average of 7.4 games a day. And you figure a game is 6 to 8 minutes end to end from, joining the lobby to match complete. Like that's well over an hour of engagement. Like that's really impressive. And any person who looks at that and goes, gee, this is more engagement than I have on my game or that I have on my website or whatever. Like they can't help but be impressed. The other thing I will say, and it's not formal or official, but we are talking with free-to-play game companies about helping us with our user acquisition strategy and all that means. And that's not to drop a bomb and not talk about it, but know that we don't feel like this is necessarily ours to solve and ours alone. Like we're going to go where the subject matter experts are, and we're going to try to get help from every possible SME in the space. And sometimes those relationships take time, and sometimes, those partnerships, if they're ultimately going to be partnerships, it's something that doesn't happen overnight. But know that we're going to exhaust every option we can to make sure that this game finds its audience, and that's going to take time. But it's not like if it doesn't happen by mid-January, it's dead. Like this is a never-ending thing for us. And it all starts and ends with the fact that we know that we have something that people like playing. We know that for a fact. And when you have that, when that's your calling card, they're like, oh, I get like literally I was showing it to a group today, like, oh, I totally get it. Like this is a blast. Okay, let's go. Like that kind of thing. Like that's the reaction you get a lot when you show it to people. So that's really helpful. And that again, I think we certainly have, a certain amount of, bias in what we're doing. But when other people come in and tell you that, yes, we really like this too, that makes you feel good about kind of, where you're at. And when your roadmap only improves those things, it makes you feel really good about where you're headed.
Well said, Mike. Let me go ahead and I got one more question. I got another question from the chat, and then Jimmy has some more comments. So real quick, this one's from Gertie, our runner-up, and also someone else asked about this too. Do you pay the fee if the match doesn't finish? This is talking about the staked rooms. Like, if you don't start the match, do you still have to pay the rake? And what's the current ETA on staked matches? And then right after this, Jimmy, it's all you.
Yeah, so if you never connect, there's no payment. If you stay in a game and your opponent leaves, and we know if they rage quit versus if they have an internet outage. If they rage quit, then they forfeit, right? So you won't get griefed on. Although we will allow for a reconnection window to persist for, I think, like 2 to 3 minutes. If for whatever reason they never come back, then they forfeit. And you get that amount, and they lose their amount that they put into the game, independent of score. This is, and again, this is, and stake matches are live right now. Gertie may have missed it. Like room 5 is now open in the game. You can go in right now and play somebody for 100 brawl, and then we'll open up 500 brawl, and then we'll open up 1,000 brawl. But as the stakes get higher, we want to make sure the connectivity is better, the failing is more graceful, the messaging don't leave. Like the behavior that we saw exhibited Friday when we put this new build out, I think it was Friday, was a lot of people hitting the cancel button when the game was trying to reconnect the player. Like they're just so used to like, oh, it's crashed, I'm out. In reality, in the background, it's like, I'm trying. Hang on, don't go yet. I'm trying. And right away, they're canceling before the retry or reconnect logic can do what it does. And we've seen a lot fewer matches not complete. Like the number of matches not completing because of an in-match crash is down to 1 or 2%. Like it's really low. It used to be as high as like 30%. Now it's down to single digits. So we're clearly heading the right way. But a lot of that not completing is because players not giving it the chance to complete and just being conditioned to, oh yeah, I've crashed, it won't recover. It's actually trying to recover. And so we'll work on some messaging like, hang in there or do this or do that. But yeah, look, refunds on scrapes and refunds on amounts staked and all that stuff is stuff that we make sure that we're kind of gonna handle in the best way that we possibly can. But if you don't connect, then everything will be refunded. It'll be right back at square one. That doesn't mean if you see me on the other side of tonight's matchup screen, you can automatically quit. Don't be afraid to play me. I know a lot of you guys are afraid to play me, especially Jimmy. I buried the last time we played, I think. And I have photographic evidence to back that up.
I don't know about that, but we'll have to see. Hey, you made a comment earlier when Buddha was on. I wanted to ask you about this. I'm confused about something. Sure. You said these cards may never, when we move to Series 2, these legendary cards and foils may never come now, period. Right. What does that mean? I don't understand that. I thought eventually if BOS owners are crafting more cards and if you're upgrading or selling them and other people upgrade, eventually those legendary cards and foils will come. Is that not necessarily a guarantee?
That's not necessarily guaranteed. It's like all things. You manufacture something and then you don't manufacture it anymore, right? And so the point was the Brawl CM owners, once we go to the beta cards, I believe the math actually, if it happens as soon as I think it will, the math actually certainly doesn't allow for a legendary foil to exist. A legendary card, excuse me. Like we don't even have a legendary deck card in existence today. So maybe somebody gets there, and you can certainly do that if you kind of pull all the resources, but the RNG is such that it's really hard to do. I mean, we're over 3 months of Brawl CM owners cranking stuff out and nobody has a legendary deck card yet. And so as soon as we go into the beta cards, the Brawl CMs will stop making the alpha cards. And what's in the inventory is in the inventory. Maybe they drop, maybe they don't drop. Now, there certainly is.
I never realized that.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's the way Magic the Gathering handled its way over. It's like there are going to be, and that's why people are like, I want to hurry up and end the alpha run so those stay rare and those stay limited. And let's get on with beta. And then at some point you move out of beta and you go into just production, right? And then that's what the masses get forever. But the alpha and the betas are really rare, and there's going to be more betas than alphas. There's going to be more production than beta, but at some point, the numbers may work out where there's never certain alpha cards that are ever in existence. And so that was what I meant by that. And I believe that's
is there a ballpark time frame on when you think we may be moving to beta? I mean, ballpark.
Yeah, I've asked the artists to come up with concepts that we can approve right now. Now, how long that takes to integrate is your guess and mine, but it's not like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? I think we've said, I don't know what the roadmap has. I think we've said kind of Series 2 brawlers and beta cards in Q1 or Q2 of next year. If you press me, I would tell you I think the beta cards happen, at some point, hopefully by the end of January, although don't hold me to that. But I think that's kind of ballparkish. It's 4 or 5 weeks out. It might be 8 weeks. It might be 3 weeks, but it's not next week. But we've certainly talked about it. It's on the list for contemplation, and where it fits in the roadmap and kind of the to-do list. Like, priorities can change, but I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
So then, to follow up to that, is it a thought by the team to say, hey, because we don't have any of these legendaries out, or what some of these cards that people would want out, I think the team would and the players would, is there thought to saying we may up the odds of those coming out over the last month or whatever that'll be left, to just see if some come out so there are some in existence? I mean, I guess the question that boils down to, does the team want some of those in existence before they leave and move on to beta?
Yeah, I think we do, but at what cost, right? Like, we don't want to upset the paradigm. It's so easy to say, oh, we'll just make this a reality, like, and have no tension there. And other people are like, well, wait a minute, we spent all this month creating this tension and creating this rarity and creating this space and doing all these things. Why now at the 11th hour are you going to kind of upset the apple cart? So on the one hand, it's easy to say that, yes, this is a huge win, or this is something that's desirable. But in reality, people don't necessarily love that per se, right? So it's funny. I think the thing that I've learned is that what's most important to people is usually what's right in front of them. And it's a real skill set or a challenge to have a really wide lens to look at things through. I would love it if all those things were in existence. And I think that's actually a really good thing for the people who own them. But there's some people who will be very upset by that notion. It's like, well, wait a minute. We spent months being taught and understanding how rare and scarce these are. And now you just kind of open the faucet just because. Like, in theory, it seems like a great idea, but there will be people that would be very, very upset by that notion. So you have to be careful.
Slippery slope. I see what you're saying. Yeah. It's just frustrating to think that be any of those out, or drop before you guys move to beta, and that to me seems a little bit. I guess I wasn't paying close enough attention to realize, hey, when we move to beta, these cards won't ever exist anymore. I didn't think it through, and I'm sure a lot of guys in here did think it through. I just was thinking, if you're on a slow roll, medium, whatever, eventually, as you craft enough, you'll get these cards, whether it's sooner or later. But now I'm realizing nobody may get them.
Right. And that's the idea. Liquidity and inventory of things that are rare or scarce have value, and the collectability of it all. I know that a lot of us are collectors, and so these things may never be in existence, which is maybe sad, but maybe people say, yep, that's just, you get what you get. So, and I think both arguments are right, given your perspective. So there's no obvious or easy answer. I mean, again, even if we made the drop rate go from 1 to 1,000 to 1 to 100, there's somebody who will take exception to that, even though I think that's probably the right thing to do in my heart. Some people will be very vehemently opposed to that, and will get accused of being bad actors or, going back on our word or whatnot. So you have to think these things through very carefully, and you can't, we don't want to be flippant on anything that we do. So.
Understood. All right. Well, appreciate it, buddy.
Of course, Jimmy. Anytime.
Thanks, Jimmy. All right, Mike. How much time do we have left?
I don't know, 2 hours.
All right, cool. All right, then. All right, you said it.
Then I've got to do some Christmas shopping.
Yeah, spoken like a true man. Wait until the last minute. All right, I got 2 questions. First one is going to come from Snappy, and I'm gonna see something here too. Here's the question for Mike: when is the Platinum Battle Tag coming out?
Never.
And I just want to say, if we're gonna make another battle tag, Mike, I don't think it should be platinum. I think it should be something that's not a P. It should be like something else. But go.
Yeah, somebody else said that too. You can't have PPPT or some kind of thing. Look, I threw out Platinum Battle Tag because somebody said it was a good comment. Gosh, I feel like every time I say it's a good comment, I'm mentioning Mace's name. I think it was Mace who said, "Why don't we do something with?" You can't just retire the PBTs. Like, people bought them and they have to have existing value. And I said to him, well, maybe we go with a platinum battle tag instead of a pink battle tag, but come up with what those design features would be. Because for the life of me, I can't think about what that is or what it gives you access to. I'm not completely closed off to it, but I think in my mind there's so many bigger fish to fry at this point in time. It's sad because the PBT, it started off as just like, hey, it's just recognition for thanks for joining us, and it turned into this really wonderful thing. I said it's kind of generated more than $250,000 worth of value for the players of things we just gave away. Like, here you go, here's $250,000 worth of stuff, and unbeknownst to us at the time, we had no idea. And so we gave it away, and gladly gave it away. Like, we always were surprised when we saw the floor prices and behaviors, and it didn't put pressure on us to create certain programs for it. It was just interesting, the speculation, the FOMO around it. And we always said, and we're going to do our best. And this is, and yet when the rampant speculation got so high, we were like, okay, we better put some real kind of guardrails around kind of really what this is, so we can manage expectations. We don't lend ourselves to the baseless speculation that is existing and people getting really upset, because that's something we're very sensitive to as well. We do take responsibility in that regard. We're not going to say, oh well, not our fault, too goddamn bad. Like, we own certain things that we should own. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100% agree. Nice one, JP. Obsidian battle tag, that would be cool. Let me here we go. All right, so this is the next question. This one's from ACG. This might be a loose lips Leroy question. Any juicy hints for the Brawl for All PvP game number 2?
Yes. Juicy hints, no. Let me tell you where it's at. So
thank you.
It's the mode is done. And it was built in Unreal 5, and it looks gorgeous. And it's really interesting to view. Right now, what we're doing, though, is we are in the process of tying your brawler to the actual gameplay experience and your collection of NFTs, right? It's not just, you've got a legendary, so therefore you're going to beat a common. It's like, well, what else do you have? How many epics do you have? How many, all your NFTs. Do you have a mining badge? Do you have a pink battle tag? Do you have a golden battle tag? No, I intentionally excluded golden battle tags. Excuse me. That was a slip up. What NFTs do you have? And then how does that impact your performance? Like, we want to inspire, collections. Right now, it's effectively a blockchain brawlers version of marble races, which I hate. I shouldn't say I hate marble races. I hate it all being random. Like, oh well, put a guy in and roll, and put a guy in and see what happens. Like, you need emotional ties to what you're doing. So we're working with the developer now about understanding what everybody has in their wallet, what everybody has in their in-game inventory, what brawler they have, because the brawlers have different health, strength, speed, evasion stats, right? And obviously the base stats are better for legendaries than they are for artifact brawlers. But your stable of everything matters. And so, and getting that right and getting that balance is what's happening right now. But look, the game, like I said, the game works end to end. I can take 40 of the players, I can enter in brawlers for them, and they can watch the results play out with striking and grappling. And when your health hits 0, you get flung out of the ring. It starts with 8 at once, and one person streams in every 5 seconds or every 15 seconds, whatever we decide it is. And at some point, 40 people have fought. And, there's a really cool thing we're experimenting with, which is your luck rating, which would be tied to a certain NFT collection. I don't know what it's going to be, but the better your luck rating is, the later you get to enter the match. And so there's all these fun things we do to sort of gamify marble races tied to things you own, but set it in Unreal 5 using blockchain brawlers. Like, that's what it is. And when you see it play out, it's gorgeous. Now, the way that it will work is that we're going to have the client on our side. You're going to have to sign up through the website to play. You'll have to pay Brawl to play, and we're going to pay out either the top 4 finalists or the top 10, whatever it wants to be, and we're going to redistribute all the Brawl to those people. We'll take a tiny vig for that, but we'll stream those matches. You can tune in and watch your dude throw down. Like, that's where that's going. But we still have to hook up the brawler and the inventory of assets that you own, and making sure that that's balanced and that plays correctly. We're having all kinds of things like crit strike, crit mitigation, crit damage, evasion, intelligence, health, strength, defense, armor pen. Like, all that stuff is all on the table, and we have to kind of tighten it up. But The mode itself is done as an MVP. I don't want to release that yet because it doesn't feel very sexy or exciting. It doesn't hit the creative
Right.
mark. But yeah, the mode is done and it's beautiful. It's all paid for. It's fantastic. I could post a video. It's really funny to watch. It really, really is. But it's there's not that emotional resonance that I think that our players want. And maybe we do a private soft launch for some folks and sign them up and see how it plays out. But there's no emotional resonance yet, and so I don't want to put anything out before people are ready. But I don't know if that's loose lips Lee enough for ACG or not. But
Loose lips Lee enough for me.
Great. That's where Brawl for All mode is, though. And that's, let's be clear, that is a pay to win mode that some players have absolutely said that they've wanted.
Right.
My credit card beats your credit card. I'll show you. I'll prove to you. Okay. And again, it's Brawl utility, right? Which is something else that we've always said is that, just more and more reasons to accumulate and hold Brawl because it's going to go up in the number of uses that it had. I think some people get confused. I said 10x utility in Brawl, and I think people confuse that as 10x the price of Brawl. And I never said. I said 10x the utility in the article that we published. And so 10x utility means you can use it 10 times more than you could previously, which I think we're way more than 10x. I think before there was 2 or 3 uses for Brawl. Now I think there's like 30 or 40 uses for Brawl. If you look at all the different crafting, swagging, upgrading, and on and on and on, it's pretty impressive. Brawliseum pack influence, Brawliseum pay to fail, easy path, hard medium. Like there's a lot of places to use your Brawl now, and that's why I think that over the last kind of 40 days, while we typically don't comment on the token price, the token is rock solid. We're never satisfied, but I think you see other projects, they have their token, just slowly drift down forever until it's at such a de minimis amount it doesn't matter. But we feel like we've done a really good job of introducing utility into the world.
Perfect. All right, that's the questions that I have. If I missed your question, tag me. If you'd like to come up and ask a question directly with your mouth and your voice, please go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll bring you up. I'll give you about 30 seconds. And if not, we'll
call it a day.
We'll wish everyone a happy holiday. Let's see. I got Buddha and Average in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
No pressure, guys. Buddha says thank you very much for the time.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. No questions. Buddha and Average both saying thank you very much. This was a fun AMA. I think it was also excuse me, my goodness. I think it was also well received as well. It was a good timing. I was glad we got to meet with everybody too right before the holiday. Is there any last word, Mike? I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, no, I guess the same thing I ask of my family, I ask of this community, because I think of them a little bit as an extended family, is like, give us the benefit of the doubt. Know that if we do something, it's not meant to be trolly or douchey or dismissive or a cash grab. It's meant to benefit people in ways that you maybe don't understand or maybe don't benefit you. But we try to do things for the greater good. Because I think we're good people at the end of the day. I think we're honest. I think we're sincere. I think we're transparent. I think we're candid, and I think we're humble and we're willing to admit when we make mistakes. So you don't like something, tell us, and if it's worth changing, we will. If you don't understand it, ask us and we'll explain it. But don't just assume that we're lying, cheating, or stealing, because we're not. We really aren't. Like, it doesn't benefit us at all. We just want to build a great game that people love playing and a community that they love to engage with. Because without community, none of this really matters.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike, for joining us today, for the time. And thank you, everyone who came to the Town Hall event live. Thank you very much, everyone in the community. It goes out to all of you. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, a happy holiday, a happy new year if I don't see you before then. And I'm excited for 2023. I hope you all too. You all are too. That's it. I guess we'll see you in the Brawlerverse.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Mike. Bye, everybody.